Midnight over Okinawa. The night belongs to them. April 15th, 1945, 0217, local time. 8,000 feet above the East China Sea, 30 miles northwest of Aishima. A lone Japanese K-45 Nick twin-engine night fighter slices through the black. Its pilot, Lieutenant Hiroshi Tanaka, relaxed in the cockpit. No searchlights, no flak. No American night fighters have ever touched this patch of sky. For 3 years, the Imperial Japanese Air Force has ruled the dark. Their pilots call it Yoru no Teikoku, the Empire of Night. Tanaka flicks on his wingtip recognition lights just long enough to spot his wingman, then kills them again. Below, the blacked-out American fleet is nothing but a faint glow on the horizon. Radar picket destroyers burning like candles. Tonight, the plan is simple. Slip past the pickets, dive on the invasion beaches at Okinawa, unload bombs on the landing craft, and vanish before dawn. The crew in the back settles in. The radio operator hums a tune from home. They have done this a dozen times. They are untouchable. Suddenly, the Nick shudders. A violent hammer blow tears through the starboard engine. Flames erupt. The aircraft rolls hard right, controls sluggish. Tanaka snaps his head around. Nothing but empty night. No tracer, no silhouette, no warning. Another burst. Cannon shells rip the port wing root apart. The Nick is dying, and Tanaka still hasn't seen the enemy. In the last second before the fireball, the radio man's voice cracks over the intercom. They came out of nowhere, like demons. The burning fighter spirals into the sea. Another ghost added to the scoreboard no one on the Japanese side can explain. Because on this night, for the first time, the darkness has teeth. And those teeth belong to a chubby ex-electrician from Schenectady, New York, who the Japanese have never even heard of.
The Laughing Marines. Who Let the Refrigerator Fly? VMFN 533. Yontan Airfield, Okinawa, late March 1945. The ground crews called him the Walking Beer Keg. Major William Farrell O'Neill, 36 years old, 5'10", 260 pounds of former General Electric engineer, steps out of the operations hut in a sweat-stained flight suit that looks 2 sizes too small. His belly pushes the zipper to its breaking point. A cigar stub is permanently glued to the corner of his mouth. The squadron's Corsair jockeys, lean, tanned, and 23 years old on average, watch him waddle toward the flight line and lose it. "Hey, radar, you sure the Corsairs' weight limit is that high? Jesus, sir, when you taxi, the whole island tilts." Laughter rolls across the crushed coral ramp. O'Neill just grins, pats the sweat off his neck with a rag the size of a bath towel, and keeps walking. He has heard it all before. From GE executives in Schenectady, who thought a fat Irishman couldn't design microwave tubes. From Navy brass, who said airborne radar would never fit in a single-seat fighter. From every skinny fighter pilot who ever needed someone to mock so they could feel invincible. Tonight, he isn't laughing. Because under a hangar guarded by Marines with shotguns, something is waiting that will shut every one of those mouths forever. Parked in the shadows, stripped of paint and wearing flat black camouflage, sits Corsair Buno 57694. On its starboard wing root, where the 50 cals used to be, a bulbous pod the size of a torpedo bulges like a tumor. Inside that pod, the first production ANS-4 airborne intercept radar ever mated to a fighter. O'Neill runs one thick hand across the antenna dish, almost tenderly. He designed half the circuits himself, back when the Navy told him it was impossible. He lost 40 pounds in a year proving them wrong, then gained it all back once the thing actually worked. Now, the Japanese are about to find out what happens when the night stops being theirs. A young pilot, Captain Bob Baird, walks up, helmet dangling from one hand. He still can't resist one jab. "Sir,
You really gonna fly that thing with all that extra drag? You'll be lucky to break 300 knots. O'Neill pulls the cigar, exhales smoke like a dragon, and answers in a soft, upstate drawl. Son, I don't need to outrun 'em. I just need to see 'em first. Behind them, the ground crew slams the hangar doors shut. The laughter dies, because even the jokers can feel it now. Something enormous is about to change. And tomorrow night, when the moon sets and the sky goes black, the empire of night will start bleeding.
First blood, the night the sky caught fire. April 15th, 1945. 01:43 a.m. VMFN 533 Black Cat Ready Room, Yontan Airfield. The room smells of coffee, sweat, and cigarette smoke thick enough to chew. 6 pilots sit in folding chairs, faces lit green by the glow of the new radar scopes bolted to a table like some mad scientist's toy. Major O'Neill stands at the front, pointer in one hand, cigar in the other. No jokes now, just silence and the low hum of generators. Range, 20 miles. Elevation, plus 5,000 feet. Bearing, 240. 2 bogies, probably Nicks, inbound to the picket line. The voice crackles over the speaker from the destroyer USS Newcomb, acting as fighter direction ship. O'Neill doesn't waste words. Red flight, start engines. Black flight, stand by. Captain Bob Baird, the same kid who mocked the weight limit yesterday, is already running. His Corsair, newly christened Lucille, wears the same black paint and the same ugly radar pod. Engines cough, then roar. Propellers turn into silver discs under the dim blue taxi lights. At 01:58, the first 2 black Corsairs thunder off the perforated steel plank runway and vanish upward into the ink. 15 miles out, Lieutenant Tanaka and his wingman cruise at 12,000 feet, confident, almost sleepy. They never see the 2 specks climbing behind them. In Baird's cockpit, the APS-4 scope paints a single glowing blip, crisp and steady. Range, 8 miles. 6, 4. Baird's voice is calm, almost bored. Tally-ho, 1 Nick. Angels 12, slightly high. He eases the Corsair into a gentle turn, closing from dead astern and 500 feet below. The radar pip grows brighter. 2 miles. 1 mile. The Japanese radio man glances out his side window and sees nothing but stars. Half a mile. Baird flips the gun switch. 6.50 caliber muzzles light up in perfect silence. No tracer rounds tonight. The Nick disintegrates in a blossom of orange that lights the clouds for miles. The second Nick breaks hard left, jinking wildly, searching for the phantom that just murdered his leader. He never finds it. O'Neill himself, orbiting higher in the number 2 Corsair, has already locked him up. A 3-second burst. The Nick folds like paper and falls burning. By 02:30, both Black Cats are back on the deck at Yontan, engines ticking as they cool. 4 Japanese crewmen dead. 0 rounds fired at the Americans. 0 damage. Baird climbs down from the cockpit, legs shaking. He looks across at O'Neill, who is lighting a fresh cigar off the hot engine exhaust like it's the most natural thing in the world. Baird's voice is almost a whisper. "Major, I take back every goddamn thing I ever said about your weight." O'Neill just smiles around the cigar. "Kid, tonight the only thing that mattered was pounds per square inch on that magnetoton, and right now we own the night." Word spreads across the fleet faster than radio. Destroyer crews who have been living in terror of night raiders suddenly see burning Japanese aircraft falling out of the sky with no explanation. On Okinawa, Marines in foxholes watch streaks of fire plunge into the sea and start cheering men they have never met.
The Empire of Night has just been invaded, and the invaders are only getting started.
The Reaper Harvest, when the hunters became prey. May 1945. The night sky over the Ryukyu chain has turned into a killing ground. Japanese commanders refuse to believe the first reports. American night fighters? Impossible. They order more raids, bigger formations, desperate attempts to stop the invasion fleet unloading on Okinawa's beaches. They might as well have rung a dinner bell. Every night now, the Black Cats VMF N533 and their sister squadron VMF N542 prowl in pairs or fours. The radar pods have been refined, smaller, lighter, lethal. Pilots who once dreaded the dark now beg for the late patrol. On the Japanese side, the mood collapses. Pilots who used to joke about target-rich darkness now draw straws for daylight missions. Experienced crews request transfers to China or Formosa, anywhere but Okinawa after sunset. The phrase spreads like a plague. Kuroneko, Black Cats. Say it in a ready room at Tokunoshima or Miyakoshima, and men go pale. One incident burns itself into Imperial Navy legend. May 24, 1945, 03:12 hours. A force of 12 G-4M Betty bombers, escorted by 6 K-45 Knicks, lifts off from Kyushu, determined to smash the American radar pickets once and for all. They fly low, hugging the wave tops, confident the Americans can't see them in the dark. They are wrong. 70 miles out, 4 Black Cats, call sign Reaper Flight, are already orbiting at 15,000 feet under GCI control from the destroyer Laffey. The APS-4 scopes paint the entire formation like Christmas lights. Major O'Neill leads. His voice over the radio is almost gentle. Reapers, execute Plan Charlie. Pick your dance partner and send him home in a box. What follows is 15 minutes of pure slaughter. Captain Herb Valentine dives first, locks a Betty at 4 miles, closes unseen, and fires from 800 feet. The bomber erupts. Burning fuel lights the ocean for miles. Before the formation can scatter, the other 3 Corsairs are among them like wolves in a sheep pen. No searchlights, no return fire that matters. One Betty pilot, realizing the impossible, deliberately rams his burning aircraft into the sea rather than let the invisible demons take him. When Reaper Flight lands back at Yontan, the scoreboard painted on the squadron hut needs fresh paint. 27 confirmed kills in 31 night sorties, 0 losses. O'Neill steps down from his Corsair, sweat-soaked, eyes red from hours staring at the scope. A war correspondent is waiting with a camera. "Major, how does it feel to own the night?" O'Neill wipes his face, lights what must be his 20th cigar of the day, and answers in that same soft, upstate voice. Feels like the first time in 4 years that Jap knows exactly what it's like to be afraid of the dark. Behind him, ground crew chalk another Black Cat silhouette under the cockpit of his plane. The tally is climbing so fast they've run out of room on the fuselage and started painting them on the vertical stabilizer. Far to the north, in Tokyo, Vice Admiral Matome Ugaki reads the latest loss report by lamplight. He stares at the numbers, then at the map, then quietly closes the folder. For the first time since Pearl Harbor, the Imperial Japanese Navy cancels all night operations over Okinawa. The Empire of Night is dead, and the fat electrician from Schenectady just nailed the coffin shut.
The Man Behind the Myth, A Quiet Night in a Quonset Hut. June 1945, Yontan Airfield, Okinawa. 02:45. The war is still 3 months from ending, but for VMF N533, the shooting has already slowed to a trickle. The ready room is almost empty. A single kerosene lamp hisses on the table. Outside, monsoon rain drums on the corrugated roof like machine gun fire. Major William Radar O'Neill sits alone, flight suit unzipped to the waist, belly spilling over his belt. A half-eaten can of peaches and a bottle of warm Asahi beer, liberated from a Japanese supply dump, sit in front of him. On the table lies an open letter from General Electric, thick corporate stationery, offering him his old job back at twice the salary once the war is over. He hasn't answered it yet. In the corner, the squadron scoreboard stares down at him. 78 confirmed night kills. The names of 38 Japanese aircraft types are chalked beside tiny black cat silhouettes. No American night fighter squadron, before or since, has ever come close. O'Neill pulls a small black and white photo from his breast pocket. It shows a younger, slimmer version of himself standing outside the GE labs in Schenectady, 1941, arms folded, grinning beside a breadboard radar set the size of a refrigerator. On the back, in faded ink, someone wrote, "To radar," the only man crazy enough to put this in a fighter. He turns the photo over, then does something no one on the squadron has ever seen. He cries. Not loud, just quiet, shoulders shaking, tears cutting clean tracks through the grease and sweat on his cheeks. Because tonight the intelligence officer delivered the latest intercept translation from Tokyo. Imperial General Headquarters has officially forbidden all-night flying within 200 miles of Okinawa. Pilots are being disciplined for even requesting it. The night sky that once belonged to samurai descendants now belongs irrevocably to a bunch of American kids flying black Corsairs with a radar set designed by a man they used to call the refrigerator. O'Neill wipes his face with the back of a thick wrist, then reaches for the beer. His voice, when it comes, is barely above the rain. "I just wanted to bring my boys home alive," he whispered to the empty room. "Didn't think about what it would cost the other guy's boys." He folds the GE letter once, twice, then drops it into the peach can like it's trash. Outside, lightning flickers across the flight line. For a moment, it silhouettes the rows of black Corsairs, radar pods still bulging like tumors, gun ports taped shut for the night. They look less like fighters now, and more like sleeping predators that have eaten their fill. O'Neill stands, switches off the lamp, and walks out into the rain without bothering to zip his flight suit. Water streams off him in sheets. He stops under the wing of his personal aircraft, Buno 57694, the first one, now wearing 19 kill symbols and the name Midnight Mercy hand-painted under the cockpit. He pats the cold metal once, almost tenderly. Then he looks up into the storm and says the only prayer he has ever prayed in this war. Let it be finished soon. Somewhere far above the clouds, the night that he conquered stretches on, silent and absolute. For the first time since 1941, no Japanese aircraft dares to fly through it.
Legacy in the Dark, the night the world changed forever. August 15th, 1945. Imperial Palace, Tokyo, 11:58 p.m. Emperor Hirohito's voice crackles across every radio in Japan. The words are formal, almost gentle, but they hit like a sledgehammer. The war situation has developed not necessarily to Japan's advantage. In barracks, in cockpits, in bomb shelters, seasoned pilots who once owned the night hear the broadcast and simply stare at the floor. They know what the Emperor will not say aloud. The Empire of Night died months ago over Okinawa, killed by black Corsairs and a fat American who saw farther in the dark than any of them ever could. 3,000 miles south, aboard the USS Missouri in Tokyo Bay, September 2, 1945, Major William O'Neill stands on the port sponson in dress blues that still strain at every button. He is one of the very few Marine aviators invited to witness the surrender ceremony. Navy brass wanted a symbol. They got one. As the Japanese delegation signs, a photographer catches O'Neill from the side, cigar clamped, eyes fixed on the table, face unreadable. That photograph will run in Life magazine, under the caption, "The Man Who Turned Off Japan's Night." Years later, long after the war, long after the Corsairs are scrapped and the APS-4 becomes museum glass,
Historians will argue about the decisive innovations of the Pacific War. They will talk about the atomic bomb, the proximity fuse, the Essex-class carriers. Very few will mention the 78 kills painted under Black Cat silhouettes on a handful of bent-wing fighters in 1945. But every night fighter pilot who ever flew Korea, Vietnam, or the Gulf will know the truth. They all stand on the shoulders of a chubby ex-electrician who refused to accept that darkness had to belong to anyone. Final tally: VMF N533 and VMF N542 combined. Okinawa campaign: 102 confirmed aerial victories at night. 0 American night fighters lost to enemy aircraft. William Farrell O'Neill retires from the Marine Corps in 1957 as lieutenant colonel. He goes back to Schenectady, designs microwave ovens for General Electric, and never flies again. Reporters who track him down begging for war stories get the same answer every time. I was just a fat guy who wanted his kids to come home for breakfast. He dies quietly in 1989, age 80. At his funeral, 6 old men in faded Black Cat squadron jackets show up unannounced. They are in their late 60s and 70s now, stooped, gray, some walking with canes. They form up at the grave in 2 perfect ranks anyway. When the minister finishes, the senior one, former Captain Robert Baird, once the wisecracking kid who mocked the weight limit, steps forward. He reaches into his pocket and pulls out a small, hand-painted Black Cat insignia peeled from the nose of an F-4U long ago. He places it on the casket. Then, without a word, all 6 snap to attention and render the slowest, sharpest salute you have ever seen. Overhead, the sky is clear, and for one brief moment, the night belongs to them again.